The metal doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a cold hiss. Ambassador Hyunwoo walked inside, his black boots clicking against the smooth floor. Around him sat creatures from across the galaxy. Some had blue skin, others had scales, and a few looked like walking trees. All of them stared at him with unfriendly eyes. Hyunwoo had been Earth's voice for 10 years. He had sat in the same chair, listening to complaints about humans. Too aggressive, they said. Too unpredictable. Too dangerous. Today felt different. The air was thick with something that made his skin crawl. Council Prime Velteran stood up. His purple skin gleamed under the bright lights. 6 arms moved as he spoke, each gesture sharp and angry. "Human," he said, his voice echoing in the large room. "Your species has ignored our warnings for the last time." Hyunwoo said nothing. He kept his face calm, even though his heart was beating fast. Around the circle, other council members nodded their heads. Some showed their teeth. Others made clicking sounds with their claws. "For 30 years we have been patient," Velteran continued. "We allowed your kind to spread to other worlds. We let you build colonies on planets that should belong to peaceful species. We watched as you turned every world you touched into a fortress." The human ambassador still said nothing. He had learned long ago that speaking too much only made things worse. The council never listened anyway. They had already decided what they wanted before any meeting began. "No more," Velteran announced. His voice got louder with each word. "All human colonies outside your home system must be empty within 1 year. Every human must return to Earth. Any who refuse will face our warships." A low rumble of approval went around the room. Some council members slammed their fists on their desks. Others made happy chirping sounds. They had been waiting for this moment for years. "Furthermore," Velteran said, raising one of his 6 hands, "Earth itself will be cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Our fleet will watch your system. No human ship will leave. No trade will happen. Your species will stay where it belongs." Hyunwoo looked around the room slowly. He saw the hate in their eyes. He saw how much they enjoyed this moment. These creatures had always feared humans, but they had never tried to understand them. That was their first mistake. "Do you understand human?" Velteran asked. Hyunwoo stood up. He was taller than most of the council members, and some of them moved back in their chairs. "Yes," he said quietly. "I understand." That was all. No begging, no threats, no angry words. Just 2 simple words that seemed to surprise everyone in the room. Velteran blinked his large eyes. "You will tell your leaders?" "Yes." "And they will obey? They will know what you have decided." The council members looked at each other. Some seemed confused. They had expected the human to fight back with words. They had prepared for arguments and anger. Instead, they got calm acceptance. "Good," Velteran said, but he sounded unsure. "You have 1 year. Use it wisely." Hyunwoo bowed his head slightly, then turned and walked out. The metal doors closed behind him with the same cold hiss. 3 days later, Hyunwoo sat in a different room. This one was on Earth, deep under the city of Seoul. Around a table sat the most important people in human space. Admiral Ji Hai commanded all human warships. General Dong Hyun led the colonial defense forces. Dr. Soo Jin ran the secret research, programs that the council never knew about. "They want us gone," Hyunwoo said. He told them everything that happened in the council chamber. When he finished, the room was quiet for a long time. 1 year, Admiral Ji Hai said finally. Her voice was cold as space ice. "They think they can scatter us like leaves in the wind. They think we will run home crying," General Dong Hyun added. He was an old soldier with scars on his hands. "They think we are weak." Dr. Soo-jin leaned forward. She was younger than the others, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. "We could fight them," she said. "Our weapons are better than they know. Our ships are faster. We could hurt them badly." "And then what?" Hyunwoo asked. "Even if we win, they will never stop hunting us. Every species in the galaxy will join them. We would become what they say we are, monsters that everyone fears." Admiral Ji Hai nodded slowly. "He is right. We need a different way." Dr. Soo-jin smiled. but it was not a happy smile. "I have been working on something. We called it the Prometheus Protocol. It was supposed to be theoretical only." "Not anymore," General Dong-hyun said. "What do you need?" Hyunwoo asked. "Time," Dr. Soo-jin said, "and silence. Complete silence." Admiral Ji-hee understood first. "You want us to disappear." "Not disappear," Dr. Soo-jin corrected. "Evolve." Over the next week, secret messages went out to every human colony. The messages were short and coded. Most people would think they were routine supply requests or weather reports. But the colonial governors knew better. On the mining world of New Busan, Governor Tai-min read his message 3 times. Then he called his security chief. "Begin Operation Silent Night," he said. "Full implementation." On the farming planet of Miao, Greenhaven, Commander So-young gathered her staff. "Pack everything important," she told them. "We leave no trace behind." On the research station orbiting Red Giant 7, Dr. Woo-jin activated protocols that had been prepared for years but never used. "Phase 1 begins now," he announced to his team. And on Earth, something strange began to happen. The communication, arrays that had sent messages to the stars for decades, started to go quiet. One by one, the signals stopped. The news networks that had broadcast to other worlds went silent. Even the tourist information channels shut down. In space, council ships watching the human colonies noticed the change. "Human chatter is decreasing," reported scanner operator Talveshi. "Communication levels down 60%. "Good," his captain replied. "They are accepting their fate." But deep in the hidden levels of the lunar research facility, Dr. Soo-jin watched displays that showed the real truth. Every human in the galaxy was not disappearing. They were transforming into something the Council had never imagined. The last message sent from Earth was simple. It went to every human ship, every colony, every hidden base. Just 2 words. Go silent. And across the galaxy, humanity's voice disappeared completely. To everyone else, it looked like surrender. They were wrong. 6 months had passed since the Council's deadline. Captain Zekmore of the Council Inspection Service stepped off his shuttle onto the surface of New Busan. The mining colony was supposed to be empty by now. All humans should have packed up and left for Earth. But something was wrong. The colony looked normal. The lights were on in the buildings. The mining machines were still digging in the distance. Steam rose from the processing plants. Everything worked perfectly, just like always, except there were no humans anywhere. "Scan for life signs," Zekmore ordered his team. They pointed their devices at the buildings and machines. The readouts showed nothing. "No biological signals, Captain," reported his aide. "But all systems are running at normal levels." Zekmore walked through the empty streets. The shops still had food on the shelves. The houses still had furniture and personal items. It looked like everyone had just stepped outside for a moment and would be back soon. "Check the command center," he said. Inside the main building, the computers were still working. The screens showed mining reports, weather data, and production numbers. Everything was normal, except the office chairs were empty. "This is impossible," Zekmore muttered. "Where did they go?" His aide checked another computer. "Captain, look at this. The mining systems processed 3 million tons of ore yesterday. The refineries are still running, the transport ships are loading automatically. But no one is here to run them. The systems are running themselves." Zekmore felt a chill run down his spine. He had been a council inspector for 20 years. He had seen abandoned colonies before. They always looked dead. Broken machines, scattered papers, signs of hurried departure. This place felt alive, but empty of souls. The same reports came from other inspection teams across human space. Greenhaven still grew food, but no farmers walked the fields. Red Giant 7 still conducted research, but no scientists worked in the labs. Every human colony worked perfectly with no humans in sight. Above Earth, the Council blockade fleet maintained its watch. Fleet Admiral Cor Andis stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the blue and green planet below. For 6 months, they had waited for signs of surrender. Instead, Earth had gone completely quiet. Energy readings are strange, Admiral, reported scanner operator Talvishi. The patterns are different than before. Different how? Lower power in some areas, higher in others, like they are using energy for new purposes. Admiral Corandis waved his hand dismissively. Humans adapting to isolation, expected behavior. But Talveshi was not convinced. In all his years as a scanner operator, he had never seen energy patterns like these. It was as if the entire planet was being rebuilt from the inside. Far from the watching eyes of the Council fleet, Captain Taman piloted his ship through the darkness between stars. The silent arrow was invisible to all sensors. Its hull was black as space and its engines produced no heat signature. Target acquired, whispered his navigator. Min-Ah. Council supply convoy bearing 27 Mark IV. Taman studied the convoy on his screen. 5 heavy transports carrying weapons and supplies to Council outposts. Their escort of 3 warships looked impressive, but they had no idea they were being hunted. Begin recording, Taman ordered. I want to know everything about their ships, their weapons, their crew rotations. For 3 hours, the silent arrow followed the convoy like a ghost. The ship's advanced sensors recorded every detail. How the ships moved, how they communicated, what their weak points were. The Council, crews never knew they were being watched. Data collected, Mina reported, transmitting to Intelligence Command. The information flashed through space using quantum channels that the Council could not detect or intercept. Within minutes, it reached a hidden base inside a hollowed-out. Asteroid Intelligence Specialist Bo Young received the data and added it to files that grew larger every day. For 6 months, dozens of human ships had been watching Council movements across the galaxy. They learned patrol routes, supply schedules, command structures, and communication codes. The Council thought they were watching humanity. They did not know that humanity was watching them back. On the hidden moon base called Site Omega, Dr. Sujin worked on the final stages of the Prometheus Protocol. The technology was humanity's greatest secret, a way to transfer human consciousness into quantum storage and then rebuild it anywhere in the galaxy. Test sequence completed successfully, reported Engineer Yujin. Subject consciousness transferred and restored with 99.7% accuracy. Dr. Sujin nodded. The volunteer test subject, a mining engineer named Jun Ho, sat up on the medical table. To him, no time had passed at all. One moment he was on Site Omega, the next he was in a reconstruction facility on the far side of the galaxy. How do you feel? Dr. Sujin asked through the communication link. Normal, Junho replied. When do we begin the real mission? Soon. The Outer Rim installations are almost ready. Dr. Sujin turned to her screens, which showed a map of the galaxy dotted with hidden bases. Each base contained quantum reconstruction equipment that could build human bodies from stored consciousness patterns. With this technology, humans could be anywhere instantly. The Council thought they had trapped humanity on Earth. They did not know that humans were already spreading across the galaxy like an invisible infection. Meanwhile, Council patrol ships began reporting strange incidents. A ship investigating unusual energy readings in the Vega system sent a routine report, then went silent. Search teams found the ship drifting empty. Its crew vanished without a trace. No signs of struggle, reported the investigating team. No damage to ship systems. The crew simply disappeared. Similar reports came from across Council space. Ships found abandoned. Patrols that never returned. Energy signatures that appeared and vanished without explanation. Council intelligence tried to find patterns in the disappearances, but there were none. The incidents seemed random, scattered across thousands of light years with no connection between them. What they did not know was that each disappearance was carefully planned. Human strike teams emerged from hidden bases, captured Council personnel for questioning, then erased all evidence of their presence. In a secret interrogation facility hidden inside a rogue planet, captured Council officers found themselves facing humans they thought were trapped on Earth. The humans were polite but thorough in their questioning. "We need to understand your fleet deployments," explained interrogator Heywan to a captured Council captain. "Your cooperation will be remembered when this is over." The captain tried to resist, but the humans had developed psychological techniques that made resistance pointless. They did not use torture or pain. Instead, they used perfect knowledge of council psychology to make cooperation seem like the logical choice. Back on Earth, the surface looked empty to the watching council fleet. Cities appeared abandoned. No ships launched into space. No messages were transmitted. But deep underground, in caverns that stretched for hundreds of kilometers, humanity built a new kind of civilization. Millions of people worked in vast chambers carved from rock. They built ships, weapons, and technologies that the Council could not imagine. Director Dalwan stood in the main command center, watching displays that showed human operations across the galaxy. Phase 2 is ready to begin, he reported to the Global Defense Council. Excellent, replied Admiral Ji Hai. The Council wanted us to be silent. Let us show them what silence really means. Above them, the Council fleet continued its watch, unaware that they were guarding an empty shell while the real humanity spread through the galaxy like a shadow. 3 months into what the Council called the human quarantine, cargo ships began disappearing across the galaxy. Not destroyed, just gone. Ships that should have arrived at their destinations never appeared. Search teams found empty space where busy trade routes used to be. Commander Yujin crouched in the cargo hold of the luxury transport Golden Harmony. Her strike team wore suits that made them invisible to ship sensors. They had been aboard for 6 hours watching and learning. Targets identified, whispered her second-in-command Seung-min. Veltarin is in Suite 7. 2 bodyguards. Standard Council security protocols. Yujin nodded. The same Council Prime who had ordered humanity's exile was now traveling to another diplomatic meeting. He would never arrive. Begin, she ordered. Her team moved through the ship like ghosts. The crew never knew they were there. Security cameras showed empty corridors even as human operatives walked past. The technology that made this possible was something the Council had never seen before. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Wu Jin prepared his equipment. He was not going to hurt Veltarin. Pain was a crude tool that produced unreliable information. Instead, he would use psychological pressure based on perfect knowledge of Council Prime psychology. When Veltarin woke up, he found himself strapped to a medical table. The lights above him were too bright to see clearly. A figure in medical clothing stood nearby, checking instruments. "Where am I?" Veltarin demanded. "Release me immediately." "You are safe," Dr. Wu Jin replied calmly. "I am going to ask you some questions. Your answers will determine how quickly you can return to your duties." "I am Council Prime. You cannot do this." Dr. Wu Jin pulled up a chair and sat down. In his hands was a data pad that glowed softly. "Your birth name is Veltaran Kanimos. You were born on the 3rd moon of Arcturus Prime. Your mother's name was Sheetel. She died when you were 12 years old in a transport accident." Veltaran's eyes went wide. That information was classified at the highest levels. "Your greatest fear is being buried alive," Dr. Wu Jin continued. "You have nightmares about drowning in sand. This fear started when you fell into a grain silo as a child." "How do you know that?" Veltarin whispered. "We have been watching your species for 30 years, learning, cataloging, understanding exactly what you are beneath all that pompous authority." Dr. Wu Jin showed him the data pad. On the screen were detailed files about every member of the Council. Personal histories, psychological profiles, family relationships, secret fears, hidden shames. "We know that Council member Rex Talon takes bribes from mining companies. We know that Admiral Corthus has a drug addiction that he hides from his crew. We know that you once killed a servant to cover up your own theft of Council funds." Veltarin tried to speak, but no words came out. "The question," Dr. Wu Jin said softly, "is what we do with this knowledge." While Veltarin was being questioned, other human teams worked across the galaxy. Intelligence specialist Minna sat in a quantum computer facility hidden inside Earth's core. Around her, screens showed information flowing through Council networks in real time. "Military communication intercept successful," she reported. "Council Fleet 7 is moving to the Rigel system. Estimated arrival in 4 days." Her team had cracked every council communication code months ago. Now they read military orders before some council officers received them. Financial transactions, personal messages, classified research, all of it flowed through human-controlled networks. The council's investigation teams, led by Security Chief Rax Thalon, tried to trace the source of the security breaches. Every lead disappeared into quantum static. Every tracer program vanished without explanation. It is impossible, Rax Thalon told his staff. These intrusions require technology beyond what humans possess. His aide, a nervous creature with large eyes, pulled up charts on the main screen. The pattern suggests multiple sources, Chief, but each one appears and disappears at random. What they could not see was that every random intrusion was carefully coordinated from Mina's facility. Human quantum computers predicted council responses and adjusted their attacks accordingly. Begin Phase 3, Mina ordered. Across the galaxy, council leaders began receiving personal messages, not to their official communication systems but to private, supposedly secure channels that only family members knew about. Council member Dex Toller found a message waiting in his personal files when he returned to his private quarters. The message contained detailed images of his secret vacation home, his hidden bank accounts, and recordings of conversations he thought no one else had heard. The message had no threats, no demands, just information that proved humans could reach him anywhere, anytime. Admiral Corthus discovered that someone had left a package in his locked cabin. Inside was a bottle of the rare drug he was addicted to, along with a note. "We know what you need. We can provide it. Or we can tell everyone your secret." Council member after council member found evidence that their most private lives were being watched. Some received photos of their families taken from impossible angles. Others found recordings of private conversations played back to them word for word. The psychological effect was devastating. Council sessions became tense affairs where leaders looked at each other with suspicion. If humans could reach their private lives so easily, who else might be watching? "We need to find their base of operations," Veltaran announced during an emergency council session. He had been returned to his ship after his interrogation, with no memory of what happened during the missing hours. "Our investigation teams have found nothing," Security Chief Raxathalon replied. "It is as if they operate from nowhere and everywhere at once." What the council did not know was that humans had built an entire civilization in places they never thought to look. Inside dead planets hidden in nebulas, buried in the cores of asteroids. Each installation was invisible to council sensors and capable of producing ships, weapons, and soldiers. Strategic Coordinator Jinsu stood in the command center of the mobile base Invisible Hand. The entire facility was built inside a wandering comet that looked completely natural from the outside. "Report," he ordered. "Phase 3 is complete," his aide reported. "All council leaders have been contacted. Psychological pressure is mounting as expected." "And the depot raids?" 17 military installations have been emptied. The council still has not figured out how we are doing it." Jinsu smiled. The secret was simple. Human strike teams used the Prometheus protocol to appear inside secure facilities, steal everything useful, then vanish by transferring their consciousness back to hidden bases. To council security, it looked like materials simply disappeared. The largest raid had targeted the main military depot in the Centauri system. Security recordings showed empty storage rooms for the entire time period when massive war machines vanished. The guards swore nothing unusual happened, because they never saw anything unusual. "Sir," his aide continued, "intelligence reports that some council species are beginning to question their leadership. Good. Fear makes people think clearly." On Earth, Admiral Jihai reviewed reports from across the galaxy. Human operations were proceeding faster than planned. The council was not just confused. They were beginning to panic. "The Outer Rim colonies report full operational capacity," she told the Global Defense Council. "We can now deploy forces anywhere in the galaxy within hours." "Casualties?" asked General Dong Hyun. "Zero. The Prometheus Protocol eliminates the risk of permanent loss. This was humanity's greatest advantage. When a human operative died, their consciousness was immediately uploaded and transferred to a new body at the nearest facility. Death had become just another tool of war. Begin Phase 4, Admiral G. High ordered. It is time to show them what real fear looks like. Across the galaxy, human forces prepared for the next stage of their plan. The Council thought they were fighting an enemy they could not find. Soon they would learn they were fighting an enemy that was already everywhere. The galaxy was changing, and most of its inhabitants did not even notice. Trade routes that had been dangerous for months suddenly became safe again. Pirates disappeared overnight. War fleets that had been aggressive began acting with unexpected restraint. Strategic Coordinator Jin Su watched it all from his command center inside the mobile base Invisible Hand. Screens around him showed human operations across thousands of worlds. What looked like random improvements in galactic security was actually the result of careful planning. Report on the Vegan sector, he ordered. Complete infiltration achieved, his aide replied. All major military installations are now under indirect human control. Local commanders believe they are making their own decisions. The Rigel system? Admiral Corandis has been successfully conditioned. His fleet now follows tactical advice from our operatives disguised as medical staff. Jinsu nodded. This was how humanity won wars, not by destroying enemies but by making them into unknowing allies. Dr. Su Jin had developed what she called soft control, biological and psychological techniques that made Council species receptive to human guidance without realizing it. The process was subtle, taking weeks to complete, but the results were perfect. At the Council's main military academy on Proxima Station, Lieutenant Commander Hei Wan led her team through corridors filled with young officers from across the galaxy. They wore perfect biological disguises that made them look like different alien species. Target the senior staff first, she whispered to her team. Once the instructors are conditioned, they will spread our influence to every student. The mission was dangerous. If discovered, her team would face thousands of armed soldiers. But the Prometheus Protocol meant that death was just an inconvenience. Even if they died, their consciousness would be instantly transferred to backup bodies at hidden facilities. The team split up, each member taking on a different identity. Some became janitors who could access restricted areas. Others became kitchen staff who could add conditioning agents to the food supply. Heiwan herself took the identity of a new medical officer. Within days, the Academy staff began showing subtle changes in behavior. They became more cooperative, more willing to listen to suggestions from junior officers who happened to be human operatives in disguise. The real breakthrough came when Admiral Rexthos visited the Academy for an inspection. Heiwan administered what appeared to be a routine medical scan, but actually implanted nano-devices that would make him susceptible to human psychological influence. "How do you feel, Admiral?" she asked in perfect Council common language. "Fine," Rexthos replied, but his voice had a slight echo that meant the conditioning was working. "Perhaps we should review our training protocols, make them more efficient." "An excellent idea, sir. I know some consultants who might help." The consultants were human operatives who would reshape Council military training to be less aggressive and more defensive. Within a year, the galaxy's most powerful military force would be psychologically incapable of starting wars. On Earth, Defense Minister Kyung-ho met with Dr. Su Jin in the deep underground complex that had become humanity's true capital. The surface world above them was empty, maintained by automated systems to fool the watching Council fleet. "Biological warfare progress?" he asked. "Beyond expectations," Dr. Su Jin replied. "We are not killing them, Minister. We are improving them." She showed him charts that tracked the spread of what she called enhancement viruses through Council space. The viruses did not cause disease. Instead, they made alien species healthier, smarter, and more peaceful. They become dependent on our treatments completely. Their immune systems now require supplements that only we can provide, but they do not know this. They think they are naturally becoming healthier. It was the perfect trap. Council species were becoming addicted to human medical technology without realizing it. If humanity ever stopped providing the supplements, billions would become sick within weeks. Captain Junho commanded the Phantom Fleet that surrounded the Council stronghold at Wolf 359. His ships were invisible to all sensors, positioned in perfect attack formation around the massive space station. But instead of attacking, he broadcast a simple message on all frequencies. Attention Wolf 359 Garrison. You have 24 hours to evacuate all personnel. This facility will then be claimed by humanity. Resistance is futile not because we are strong, but because you cannot fight what you cannot find. The message caused panic throughout the station. How were humans broadcasting from inside their defense perimeter? Where were the ships? How many were there? Station Commander Velkoris gathered his senior staff. Scan all vectors. Find these human ships. Sir, his sensor operator replied nervously. Our instruments show nothing. Space appears completely empty. That is impossible, but it was not impossible. Human stealth technology had advanced beyond anything the Council could detect. Junho's ships existed in a quantum state that made them invisible to normal sensors while still allowing them to observe and attack. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. We are receiving reports from our family quarters. Someone left gifts for the children. Toys, candy, personal messages. How did anyone get past our security? Velkoris felt cold fear creep up his spine. If humans could reach the children, they could reach anyone. Begin evacuation, he ordered. The evacuation of Wolf 359 took 18 hours. As the last Council shuttle departed, human ships materialized around the station like ghosts becoming solid. They took control without firing a single shot. Similar scenes played out across Council space. Strongholds that had stood for centuries were abandoned when faced with humanity's invisible presence. The Council's military power was collapsing, without a battle. In the Council chambers on Proxima Station, Velterran called an emergency session. Around him sat representatives from hundreds of species, but the mood was different than before. Fear had replaced arrogance. We must face the truth, Velterran announced. The humans have become something we did not expect. They are still trapped. On Earth, insisted Council member Dex Toller. Our blockade remains in place. Then explain the disappearances, Security Chief Raxathelon replied. Explain how they are operating across the galaxy, while supposedly confined to one system. What none of them knew was that half the people in the chamber were actually humans wearing biological disguises. Security officers, aides, technicians, even some of the Council members themselves had been replaced by human operatives. Ambassador Unji sat in the chair reserved for the Thraxian delegation. Her disguise was perfect. She looked, sounded, and even smelled like a Thraxian. The real Thraxian delegation was safely imprisoned on a hidden human base, being treated well while their identities were borrowed. Perhaps, Unji suggested in her false Thraxian voice, we should consider negotiation. Negotiation? Velterran's 6 arms gestured angrily. They have ignored our ultimatum. They mock our authority. They have also avoided killing anyone, Unji pointed out. Every disappeared patrol has been returned safely. Every captured facility has been taken without casualties. This suggests they want something other than destruction. Around the chamber, other disguised humans nodded agreement. They guided the conversation toward acceptance of humanity's new position without making it obvious. The psychological conditioning was working perfectly. Council leaders were beginning to see cooperation with humanity as their own idea. Back on Earth, in the deep command centers that the Council fleet could not detect, Admiral Ji Hai reviewed the progress reports. Phase 4 was proceeding ahead of schedule. Council military effectiveness down 60%, she read from her aide's report. Political cohesion failing. Economic systems increasingly dependent on our covert assistance. Casualties on our side? 0 permanent losses. The Prometheus. Protocol has eliminated the concept of death from human military operations. This was humanity's ultimate advantage. Every human soldier was effectively immortal. They could take risks no other species would dare, knowing that death was just a temporary inconvenience. Admiral, her aide continued, intelligence reports that some council species are beginning to worship humans as protective spirits. Ji-Hai smiled. The conditioning programs had worked better than expected. Some alien populations now saw mysterious human interventions as the work of benevolent gods who protected them from pirates and disasters. Begin Phase 5. Preparations, she ordered. It is time to reveal ourselves. The long game was nearly complete. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through force. They had become indispensable to it. Every system now depended on human protection, human technology, human guidance. The Council still thought they were in charge, but they were really just puppets dancing to humanity's silent music. Soon, the galaxy would learn what it meant to be under humanity's protection, and they would discover that they had no choice but to accept it. 1 year had passed since the Council delivered their ultimatum. Director Seung-min stood in his office in Luna City, looking out at the vast underground metropolis that stretched for hundreds of kilometers beneath the moon's surface. The city was invisible to the Council fleet that still watched Earth, believing they were containing humanity. Through quantum communication networks, Seung-min could observe every Council world simultaneously. The transformation was complete. Humanity did not rule the galaxy. They had become the galaxy, invisible and everywhere at once. Status report, he said to his aide, Mi Young. All Council species show complete integration with our enhancement programs, she replied, reading from a glowing datapad. Dependency on human medical technology is now universal. Economic systems function only because of our covert support. Military forces follow our tactical guidance without realizing it. Seung-min nodded. The galaxy looked the same as it always had. The same species ruled the same worlds. The same governments made the same types of decisions. But now every choice was subtly guided by humanity's invisible hand. Dr. Sujin's biological modifications had worked perfectly. Every major species in the galaxy now carried genetic markers that made them neurologically receptive to human guidance. They felt happier and more peaceful when following human suggestions. They became anxious and confused when acting against human interests. Any resistance movements? Seung-min asked. None that pose a threat. The few individuals who suspect human involvement are discredited by their own governments. Their leaders consider such theories to be paranoid fantasies. This was humanity's greatest victory. They had convinced the galaxy that human control was impossible, so no one looked for evidence of it. Ambassador Yunji walked through the corridors of the council chamber, still wearing her perfect Thraxian disguise. Around her, other council representatives discussed the day's agenda. None of them realized that half the people in the room were humans wearing biological masks. The real council members had been gradually replaced over months. Some were captured and held safely in hidden facilities. Others were conditioned so thoroughly that they might as well be human agents. A few had been eliminated when they proved too dangerous to convert. Today we vote on the new trade agreements, announced the session leader, who was actually Captain Jun-ho wearing the identity of a deceased council bureaucrat. The trade agreements would give human corporations access to every major market in the galaxy, but the council members would believe they were protecting their own interests. Each representative would vote based on economic analysis provided by human advisors, disguised as their own staff. During the session break, Yunji met privately with Veltarin in his secure office. The Council Prime had been showing signs of the neurological conditioning for months but still believed he was making his own decisions. The human problem appears to be resolving itself, Veltarin said, his 6 arms moving in satisfied gestures. Our quarantine has been completely effective. Yes, Yunji agreed. Earth remains silent. No human ships have been detected leaving their system. Veltarin walked to his window, which showed the busy space traffic around Proxima Station. Perhaps we were too harsh in our judgment. Humans may be aggressive, but isolation seems to have calmed them. What he could not see was that many of the ships in the traffic pattern were actually human vessels using holographic disguises. Human, crews piloted Council freighters. Human engineers maintained Council space stations. Human doctors treated Council patients. I have been thinking, Veltarin continued, that we should send a diplomatic mission to Earth. Offer them limited trade rights if they accept permanent restrictions on their expansion. A generous proposal, Yunji said, hiding her smile. I'm sure they would be grateful for your wisdom. The irony was perfect. Veltarin was offering gifts to the very species that already controlled everything he thought he owned. On Earth, in the real command center buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Chief Archivist Dalwan compiled the final historical records of humanity's greatest operation. The Council had feared human aggression and expansion, so they created conditions that forced humanity to become something far more terrifying than conquerors. The transformation is complete, he reported to the assembled leaders. We are no longer a species seeking to expand through space. We have become the intelligence that guides galactic civilization itself. Admiral Ji Hai reviewed the strategic position. Military assessment? Council forces exist at our discretion. Their weapons work because we maintain them. Their officers follow our guidance because we have made resistance psychologically impossible. In any direct conflict, they would be fighting with tools we control against an enemy they cannot find. Economic position? Every major trade route depends on human logistics. Every important technology uses human components. Every financial system runs on computers we built. Without our support, galactic civilization would collapse within weeks. Political influence? We do not need to control council governments because we have become their governments. When they make decisions, they are implementing plans we designed. When they issue orders, they are speaking words we wrote. The greatest victory was that the council species genuinely believed they were free. They made choices, passed laws, and conducted their lives exactly as they wanted. They simply wanted what humanity needed them to want. Veltarin sat alone in his private chamber that evening, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. Crime was at historic lows. Wars had virtually ended. Trade was more prosperous than ever. Disease and poverty were disappearing. Perhaps, he thought to himself, the quarantine of humanity has brought peace to the galaxy. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry. Come in, he called. A young female aide entered, carrying a data pad. She was actually Director young, but Veltarin knew her as his most trusted advisor. Sir, she said, I have the final report on the human situation. And? Earth remains completely silent. No communications, no ship movements, no signs of technological development. They appear to have accepted their isolation. Veltarin felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and regret. Good. Though I sometimes wonder if we were too harsh. Sir, there is one more thing. We have been receiving requests from various council members to establish limited trade with Earth. Nothing major, just medical supplies and basic technology in exchange for human cultural artifacts. Interesting. What do you recommend? I believe small-scale contact would be safe. We could demonstrate our continued authority while showing mercy to a defeated species. Veltarin nodded slowly. The suggestion felt reasonable, even wise. He did not realize that the idea had been carefully planted through months of subtle conditioning. Draft a proposal, he ordered. Limited trade only, and they must acknowledge council authority. Of course, sir. As Myung left his chamber, Veltarin felt pleased with his decision. He was being both strong and merciful, the perfect leader. He never suspected that he had just agreed to formally recognize humanity's return to galactic society on terms that would give them everything they wanted. The next morning, a message was transmitted across all frequencies throughout the galaxy. It came from Earth, the first official communication in over a year. Ambassador Hyunwoo appeared on screens across thousands of worlds. He looked older but calm, standing in what appeared to be a simple government office. To our galactic neighbors, he began, the experiment is complete. Humanity has demonstrated that we can coexist peacefully with all species. Your leaders remain in place, your governments function normally, your peoples prosper. The only difference is that now, when decisions are made, they are made with wisdom rather than fear. Council members across the galaxy watched in confusion. What experiment? What did he mean? The council went too far when they tried to silence us, Hyun-woo continued. They forgot that predators are most dangerous when they hunt quietly. But we are not monsters, we are gardeners. And this galaxy is now our garden. The truth began to dawn on some viewers. The improvements in galactic security, the end of major conflicts, the mysterious prosperity, it had all been humanity's work. You are free to continue as you always have, Hyun-woo said with a slight smile. We ask only that you remember, humanity is always watching, always protecting, always ensuring that the peace we have built together will endure. In the council chamber, Veltarin stared at the screen in shock. Around him, other council members made sounds of confusion and fear. Welcome to the age of silent harmony, Hyun-woo concluded. The transmission ended, and across the galaxy, life continued exactly as before. Except now everyone knew that humanity's guardianship was eternal and invisible, ensuring that never again would fear triumph over wisdom or paranoia over peace. In his office on Luna City, Director Seung-min turned off the broadcast and smiled. The revelation would cause some temporary unrest, but the conditioning was too complete for real resistance. Humanity had won the greatest victory in galactic history. They had conquered an entire galaxy without firing a shot, enslaved billions without chains, and achieved absolute power through absolute invisibility. The Council had wanted humanity to be silent. They got exactly what they asked for. And now they would live forever under the protection of the predators.